Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Aranza Zugalan and I'm a member of the Build Up editorial team. Build Up is Europe's largest international portal for energy efficiency and renewable energy in buildings. It is a unique community that provides the opportunity to discuss, contribute, and collaborate with other experts in this field. Build Up aims to bring together stakeholders working in the building and construction sector to re-up the collective intelligence about energy reduction in buildings by encouraging knowledge exchange. Our editorial work is organized around a topic of the month, which allows us to dig deeper into specific themes. Each month, several items are produced by Build Up, such as overview and technical articles and written interviews, but that's not all. Build Up also offers the opportunity to host webinars on topics related to energy efficiency and renewable energy in buildings. More recently, Build Up has opened its doors to distinguished experts in the field to share their knowledge in front of our cameras in our Build Up expert talks. The Build Up portal shares daily the most relevant events in the field, but we also participate actively in many European events around the year, such as EPV Center and RIBA conferences, Horizon 2020 Interreg and Cost Action events, Covenant of Mayors, and more, always with the aim of further disseminating the results and helping to create high-quality media content. The Build Up portal is updated daily, reaching around 120 new items each month, including news, events, publications, articles, and video content. But Build Up is not only us. Build Up is a community, and we invite you to be part of it. By becoming a member, you can contribute by uploading your own content and promoting your project news, events, case studies, reports, and more. By contributing content, Build Up will help you to reach a broader audience through our online portal, our social media channels, and our monthly newsletter. Visit us in our new portal at buildup-app.ec.europa.eu to find out more. It is a pleasure for Build Up to host today's webinar entitled Live Clean Energy Transition Smart Ready, brought to you by Build Up in collaboration with the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, IEECP, and the EC-SRI, SRI to Market, Smart Square, and SRI-ENACT projects. The objective of today's session is to shed light on the benefits of smart readiness indicator rollout to a variety of stakeholders, while at the same time exploring paths to solve the most relevant barriers to SRI implementation across both sectors and countries. We invite and encourage the audience to send us questions through the GoToWebinar platform that can be answered during the open discussion. Please specify which presenter your question is for, or if it's for all speakers. You will be able to find the webinar recording on the Build Up portal and our YouTube channel on the coming days, together with the presentation slides. Now, we'll move directly to our first speaker and moderator of today's session, Sophie Durland-Caranta, Managing Partner at R2M Solution. Sophie, the floor is yours.
Many thanks for this introduction. Many thanks to Build Up for organizing this webinar that's going to address the smart readiness indicator and more generally smart buildings. So I'm very glad to introduce this webinar and to present the agenda of this meeting. So we have two parts. In the first part, we will have Sylvain Robert from the European Commission, the agency SINEA, who will introduce the LIFE CET program and the revision of the EPBD. Then Simone Alessandri from EU-BAC will present the integration of the SRI in BAC industry practices. And to finish this first part, we will have two representatives of two countries, Austria and Spain, who are going to present the rollout of the SRI in the national policies. So Armin Noser for Austria and Maria Fernandez Boneta for SINER. And then in the part two, we will have the presentation of each of the four live projects that have been mentioned in the introduction: Easy SRI, SRI to Market, Smart Square, and SRI-ENACT. And of course, we will be very glad to take your questions at the end. Before giving the floor to Sylvain Robert, I would just like to provide very briefly a couple of reminders about the SRI to make sure that everyone is well aware of what it is. So it's a new EU instrument which rates the smart readiness of buildings in their capability to perform 3 key functionalities: the optimization of energy efficiency and overall in-use performance, the adaptation to the needs of the occupants, and finally, the capability to adapt to signals from the grid in order to provide energy flexibility services. The methodology for calculating the SRI is based on a service catalog, so some smart ready services are grouped into 9 technical domains which are addressed by the SRI, so heating, cooling, domestic hot water, ventilation, lighting, dynamic building envelope, electricity, which is meant here to, well, which corresponds to locally generated electricity like PV panels and also battery storage in buildings, etc. Electric vehicle charging and monitoring and control. Sorry, I missed one slide. Yeah, and this is just to illustrate what an SRI assessment looks like. So when these services are assessed, different scores are calculated. There is one overall score that is the SRI aggregated value. You can see here on this fictitious example 52%, but there are also some values aggregated for each key functionality and some very detailed values so that the building owners can really understand where improvements are possible. So I'm now giving the floor to Sylvain Robert, who is going to present the LIFE CET program. Sylvain.
Hello, so thanks a lot for having invited me. I do not have any control on the slide, so I assume I will have to say next slide, right?
In principle, you should have control.
All right. I'm not familiar with the tool, so shall I just, I'm going to try. It doesn't do anything when I click on the, let me see.
Click on the screen first. There you will get the controls, and afterwards you can move it with the arrows.
Yeah, it's fine. Now it works. Okay, thanks a lot. Sorry, I didn't have the opportunity to participate to the runout session. So, well, in this presentation, basically, I'm just going to outline some recent development of the EU energy efficiency policy framework, and I will refer to the LIFE Clean Energy Transition Subprogram and its 2023 call. So first of all, a very quick overview of the main energy policy drivers in the European Union. I guess you are mostly familiar with them. The European Green Deal, which is an overarching initiative launched by the Commission in 2020. It's set in stone the aim of making the EU climate neutral in 2050. And one of the translations of this Green Deal is the Fit for 55 package, which is a set of proposals to revise and update EU legislation and to launch new initiatives with the aim to achieve more ambitious climate goals. And the flagship element of this package is the legal requirement to reduce EU emissions by at least 55% by 2030. And finally, Repower EU is a response to the energy crisis resulting from Russia's invasion in Ukraine. It further strengthens EU action in order to save energy, increase clean energy production, and diversify our energy supplies. In the scope of Fit for 55, the Commission proposed to increase the ambition of its energy efficiency framework and to recast 2 of its key elements, the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. You are probably also very familiar with these 2 pieces of law. The proposal for the recast of the EED was adopted in July 2021. Interinstitutional negotiations followed, which led to political agreement on the recast in March 2023. The adoption should take place around September of this year. I'm not going to detail the contents of the recast, but I wish to flag some main provisions. One is the new binding EU energy efficiency target of 11.7% in 2030. This is in comparison with the energy consumption forecasts for 2030 made in 2020. The second one is the legal requirement for EU countries to take energy efficiency into consideration in policy, planning, and investment decisions in the energy sector and beyond. And the third one is the strengthened energy savings obligations, which, as you probably know, is one of the main instruments under the EED. So EU countries will be required to achieve new savings each year of 1.49% of final energy consumption on average from 2024 to 2030 up to the current level of 0.8%. So this is significant, and these levels will be gradually increased to 1.9% by the end of 2030. The same way as the EED, a recast was proposed for the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. The proposal was published in December 2021, and here the policy process is a bit less advanced than for the EED. The Council of the European Union agreed on a general approach on its opinion in October 2022, and the European Parliament adopted its report in March 2023. So actually the final stage of the negotiation process is currently taking place. You can see some of the main proposed evolution in this slide. Minimum energy performance standards. So this is a system to require the renovation of worst performing buildings. The introduction of zero emission buildings. So these are buildings with a very high energy performance, which energy needs are entirely covered by energy from renewable sources on site or from a renewable energy community. And also one that I wish to flag is the introduction of the life cycle global warming potential, which is an indicator that quantifies the global warming potential contributions of a building in consideration of the full life cycle. And that indicator, basically under the Commission's proposal, would be included in energy performance certificates. So you see that the recast is actually expanding the scope of the PPD. Sorry, I missed one slide. So here, I wish to underline that the proposed recast includes specific provisions to support the modernization of buildings and smart readiness, which indeed remains one of the key aspects of the directive. And one is the reinforcement of the smart readiness indicator with a possible mandatory application to large non-residential buildings, and the revision of the SRI regulatory framework with a new dedicated act, and also new provisions to ensure access to buildings data, databases of EPCs, and data interoperability. As I already said, the negotiation process is still ongoing. The Council and the European Parliament share their positions on the proposed provisions. And well, considering, I mean, especially for the smart readiness indicator, it seems that the rationale proposed by the Commission is kind of acceptable on both sides, but with, of course, different perspectives on some aspects. For instance, conditionality based on the outcomes of the SRI testing phases, the timeline for putting in place an updated regulatory framework, or the types of buildings for which the SRI would become mandatory. The agreement on the recast and so on the provisions on the SRI will be known once trilogues have concluded. They have started under the Swedish presidency, and they will continue under the Spanish presidency. Now I'm going to switch to a different matter. So the institutional support provided for your scope of action by the European Union, and in particular, the LIFE Clean Energy Transition Sub-Program. So this is a new component of the LIFE program, which itself is an old, so to say, program of the Union. But voilà, clean energy transition is brand new in LIFE, and The essence of the mission of this program is to enable action for energy efficiency and renewable energy policy. It's actually a continuation of actions led under previous programs, which are Intelligent Energy Europe until 2013 and Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency between 2014 and 2020. The key objectives of Life Clean Energy Transition are to break market barriers, to evolve market and regulatory fundamentals, to improve governance and capacities and skills at all levels, to mobilize investments and improve access to finance, and to develop and demonstrate innovative approaches to support the uptake and implementation of EU legislation to help achieving targets. And there is a strong focus on ground local action. And in terms of budget, the sub-program has €1 billion over 7 years from 2021, and it is organized into annual call for projects. The third round of Life Clean Energy Transition, the call was published on mid-May 2023, with a deadline for submitting proposals mid-November 2023, and there is close to €1 million for around 60 grants. The characteristics of this call are quite in line with the previous ones, for those of you who are familiar with the sub-program. So the call includes policy-driven funding topics with detailed guidance on the expectations. Most funding topics, and this is a difference with other components of the LIFE program, require a minimum of 3 entities from 3 different countries, but the average number of partners in the consortia is higher. And one specificity also in the LIFE framework of LIFESET is that there is one type of action that is funded, coordination and support actions, and that the co-funding rate is of 95%. Speaking specifically about the contents of the call 2023, there are 6 pillars in this call. And again, these pillars are quite in line with what you could have seen in previous calls. The first one addresses the support to citizens in the clean energy transition. It includes 2 topics to support the Green Deal's vision to ensure the energy transition is socially just and inclusive. The first one focuses on alleviating energy poverty by building skills and capacity of vulnerable households, and also to support relevant actors, including public authorities, in designing longer-term strategies and frameworks to mitigate energy poverty. The second topic of this pillar is about launching a facility to support energy communities setting up through cascade funding. So it's about providing small grants to third parties in a simplified way. And it's actually based on an instrument that we put in place dedicated to cities. And voila, the aim is to do similar things to help energy communities. The second pillar focuses on buildings and heating and cooling with 3 topics. One on energy performance of buildings. The aim is to create the conditions to make renovation faster, deeper, smarter, and service and data driven. The focus is on boosting deep renovation, improving conditions on the ground, and delivering buildings data. A second topic under this pillar is aims to address retrofitting of existing inefficient district heating networks, for instance, by integration of low temperature renewable energy and waste heat. And the third topic is kind of connected to Repower EU, and it's designed to boost heat pumps deployment with new business models and increased skills. And speaking about skills, this is the focus of the third pillar on this slide, with a topic dedicated to the continuation of the Build Up Skills initiative, and a topic dedicated to support businesses in the energy transition for instance, by promoting energy cooperation among companies across value chains. The fourth pillar of the 2023 calls is designed to support an effective implementation of the policy framework. So the first topic aims to provide local and regional authorities with the necessary capacity, skills, and structures to deliver and implement plans and strategies for the clean energy transition. The second topic supports directly, so it's a direct support to policy implementation with a focus, of course, of the main pieces of legislation of interest in the sub-program, so the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. And it's about forward-looking analytical work and technical assistance to member states. The third topic is a bit specific. It's about supporting the new European Product Register for Energy Labeling, EPROL. And here, activities expected are about enhancing the quality of data in the registry and related uses of data. The fifth pillar deals with facilitating investment at a local and regional level with two topics. The first one is focusing on one-stop shops for building renovation and business. It aims to remove the barriers that apply to renovation through integrated services and reducing the complexity of the processes for renovation, simplifying decision-making and stimulating demand for deep renovation. The second topic under this pillar is about project development assistance to help public and private project promoters to build and launch concrete investment pipelines into sustainable energy. And finally, the sixth and last pillar is about innovative finance and more precisely crowding in private finance. The aim is to increase the amount of private finance allocated to energy efficiency and small-scale renewable energy sources by establishing innovative financing schemes for investments in sustainable energy, engaging with financial institutions to develop financial products and adapt investment practices. So voila, this is it in a nutshell. I hope I'm on time, and I wish to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvain. Yes, you're on time, and hopefully you can stay until the end of the webinar, because I assume there will be some questions for you from the audience.
Yes, I will stay.
Thank you. So I'm now giving the floor to Simone Alessandri, and from EUBAC. Simone, you can control the screen, and the floor is yours for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Sophie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to build up on behalf of EUBAC. So you should be able to see the screen. I'll start with a first slide to quickly introduce you to EUBAC, the European Building Automation and Controls Association. So on screen, you can see the logos of the different member companies, which are the most important manufacturers of building automation technologies in Europe, both in the residential and non-residential sector. Moving on to the next slide. You see BACs written everywhere. So what are these BACs? What are we referring to when we talk about building automation and control systems? BACs refer to the integration of various technologies and systems that control and automate a building's operation, including HVAC, lighting, security, and more. BACs enable centralized control, monitoring, and optimization of building systems, improving energy efficiency, occupant comfort, and operational performance. These are different solutions that can range from thermostatic valves on our radiators to building management systems in medium and large buildings. As you can see on screen, we often refer to BACs as the brain of the building, as they ensure the integration of the technical building systems about avoiding counteraction and malfunctions between these different technical building systems. In the same way, the brain controls the different parts of the body and makes sure that the hands and legs and all the parts of the bodies are moving together. BACs are also in the intelligent nodes of the smart energy system. They facilitate demand response, consumption prediction, energy storage, and management of distributed generation of renewables. Moving on to the next slide, which you should be able to see. Yeah, you can see it right now. So now we're talking about the potential of BACs to deliver numerous benefits across various domains. Let's start with the reduction of energy and CO2 consumption. BACs enable advanced control strategies, optimization algorithms, and real-time monitoring, and this results in significant energy savings and reduced carbon footprint. Furthermore, they improve health and comfort. BACs play a crucial role in maintaining optimal indoor environmental quality, including temperature, humidity, air quality, and lighting levels, promoting occupant health, well-being, and productivity. Reduce costs. By optimizing energy usage, BACs help lower operational costs associated with heating, cooling, lighting, and maintenance, providing long-term financial savings for building owners and occupants. Finally, another very important problem that needs to be tackled in Europe, and not only, energy poverty. BACs can actually contribute to addressing energy poverty by ensuring efficient energy use and reducing utility bills, enabling control and management of energy resources in residential and commercial buildings. With the next slide, we're moving to the SRI technical domains. Sorry, one step back. Okay. I should be able to go back instead of forward, maybe. One more. SRI technical domains. Yeah, thank you so much. Here on screen you can see the different technical domains, and BACs can play a significant role in enhancing smart-ready services within the framework of the SRI. Let's go through them and let's see what BACs can do for each of them. So first of all, heating. BACs enable advanced control strategies for heating systems, optimizing the temperature set points, scheduling, and energy usage based on occupancy and weather conditions. Cooling. BACs provide intelligent control of cooling systems, adjusting temperature, airflow, and operating schedules to maintain comfortable conditions while minimizing the energy consumption. Regarding domestic hot water, BACs can monitor and optimize the operation of domestic hot water systems, ensuring efficient heat generation and distribution, while considering user demand patterns. Ventilation. BACs facilitate smart control and monitoring of ventilation systems, adjusting airflow rates, air quality sensors, and occupancy-based ventilation strategies to enhance indoor air quality and energy efficiency. Lighting. We mentioned it before. BACs enable intelligent control, including occupancy sensors, daylight harvesting and scheduling, ensuring optimal lighting levels while minimizing energy waste. Going below, the dynamic building envelope. BACs can integrate with smart building envelopes technologies such as automated blinds, smart glass, and shading systems to optimize daylighting, solar heat gain, and thermal insulation. Electricity. BACs allow for monitoring and management of electricity usage, including load balancing, demand response, and integration with renewable energy sources, promoting energy efficiency and grid integration. Electric vehicle charging, which is more and more relevant even in the legislation, in the EPBD. BACs facilitate smart charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, enabling load management, demand response, and integration with renewable energy sources, supporting sustainable transportation, and grid resilience. And finally, monitoring and control. BACs provide the foundation for real-time monitoring, data collection, and control of building systems, enabling performance analysis, fault detection, and remote management for optimal operation. Concluding with this slide, BACs facilitate seamless integration and interoperability among different smart-ready services, creating a cohesive and efficient building automation ecosystem. With the next slide, we're going a bit more into the legislation, starting with a provision on BACs. So the current EPBD requires new and existing buildings, no residential buildings, above an effective rated output of 290 kilowatt to be equipped with building automation and control capabilities by 31st December 2024. With the revised EPBD, as we saw before, that could be approved by the end of this year. Even the existing and non-residential buildings above 70 kilowatt could fall in scope of these requirements, so a larger scope in the future. But what are these requirements specifically asking? Actually, it's not a prescription of a single technology, but rather a prescription of capabilities that need to be delivered by these technologies. You can see them all on screen, letter A, B, and C. And as you can see, these are really capabilities, functionalities that deliver actually a value for the occupant of the building, improving health and delivering all the benefits that we saw in the previous slide. So the appropriate transposition and implementation of these measures not only will deliver impressive savings and improve health and comfort, but they will also improve the smart readiness of the buildings in scope, and therefore preparing the buildings to achieve better SRI scores and improving the value of these buildings. On the right-hand side, you can also see some figures that we provided. These are taken from a weight study, which shows that the proper implementation of these measures in the EPBD can deliver up to 14% primary energy savings, and that the savings of building automation exceed investment by a factor of 9 over a lifetime, with a payback that is only 3 years in most of the cases. In the context of the renovation, therefore, you can easily see the value of these technologies. An investment will pay back in only 3 years, and in the remaining years, there will be savings that can contribute to further interventions on the building, to further renovation. Moving on to the final slide, we go more into the EPBD provisions on the SRI. So the current legislative framework is proving to be insufficient to ensure an adoption of the SRI if we want to achieve the benefits that are expected from this tool. It is therefore key, in our opinion, to close the existing gaps and be crystal clear in the EPBD revision about the mandatory nature of this tool, at least in large buildings with high energy demand, where this can be particularly beneficial, as written in the EPBD proposal by the Commission, recital 43. With the increasing electrification of our energy system, there is a need for more flexibility, and at the same time, there is the need to enable buildings for demand response. A mandatory SRI would motivate the implementation of smart technologies and provide information to the market and regulators on the future-proofness of single buildings and the building stock as a whole. Furthermore, the Smart Readiness Indicator will also incentivize the achievement of NZEB and ZEB buildings. Indoor rental quality. In the last years, we all discovered, unfortunately, how much this is important for our health and productivity. The new EPBD includes some additional measures, absolutely needed and positive on this element. But in this context, it is also worth stating once again that the SRI would enable a proper monitoring of this indoor rental quality. So it will deliver really substantial impact also in the field of indoor rental quality. In light of this, we believe that it would make sense to link the Smart Readiness Indicator with the threshold of the BACS requirements, as we saw before. So BACS, those technologies, those functionalities actually enable an easier implementation of the SRI. And in most of the cases, these technologies will also be able really to achieve a lot of different functionalities, and it makes a lot of sense to make sure that the buildings that are equipped with building automation and control systems will also need a mandatory Smart Readiness Indicator. Consistency between these different thresholds avoid conflicts and gaps. It will make easier and less costly to have a Smart Readiness Indicator and enable seamless integration of BACS and SRI compliance. This was my last slide. Thank you so much for your attention. You can find us also on social media. Sophie, back to you. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. Let's continue with very concrete aspects of the SRI. So now we are going to have two presentations. So one from Austria, one from Spain for 10 minutes each, presenting the rollout of the SRI in national policy. So Armin, the floor is yours for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Armin Knotzer. I'm from IEECP Research Institute in Austria, and I will talk about rolling out SRI in national policies. In Austria, of course.
Armin, you have lost the sound. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the next slide, please.
You should have the control. You can click on the slide.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first two slides about the motivation. Austria sees it very important, of course, like everybody, that we are talking about decarbonization. And you see here the yellow line. It's the line which says Austria has a lot to do still. We didn't really achieve some CO2 reductions. There are, of course, some reductions, but they are not as far as we have to do. And when you look here at the next slide, we have to manage to go from the red barns to the green ones, meaning reduce our consumption, energy consumption in Austria here, and of course also raise or increase renewable energy, and of course also biomass, which is very important here in Austria. So main motivation, as I already said, everything in the EPC or also the SRI development is decarbonization. In the light of this, you can see here the current development. First, we have the European level. We already heard a lot about this, about the development of the SRI there. In Austria, we had, of course, also the PPT 2018. Then we had national studies where we developed or had some investigations on developments on alternative SRI methods and indicators, because we saw from stakeholder interviews that there are different opinions on the SRI methodology. And then we said also, starting 2021, together with the ministry, we want to be part of the test phase. We want to put feedback back to the Commission, and also want to test the European methodology more in detail, and also other indicators. So that is the basic here in Austria. And I want to remind again that we have different calculation options also in the European methodology. The first one, the A, is interesting for, let's say, a cheap assessment. We are talking normally about the expert assessment and in method B, and interesting for the future. And I think we heard a lot in previous slides from my colleague Simone. Interesting for operation is, of course, also these measured data and analyzing them via some kind of SRI calculation in future. So we are talking about method B, and we are talking about default weighting factors, as also you can see here, domain weightings for Northern European climate for a residential building, for example. So we have weightings here in the methodology in the European, and all these things are now in discussion in the test phase. And also, of course, for Austria, very important. And when the ministry or also other technical bodies here in Austria saw these things in the methodology, we had the the question, of course, why a smart readiness indicator in the end? Is it because we want to switch to renewable energies? Yes, we want to manage time differences between energy production and energy consumption. Then we asked to what extent can the energy storage building absorb peak loads? And third thing is rating tool for energy flexible building. So everything went in the direction of flexibility should be maybe the main part here for smart readiness. And then in this study, 2019-20, in the first stages of development here, we said in Austria, yeah, there could be 3 pillars. According to the PPD 2018, the energy flexibility pillar, which is the most important one maybe for Austria in this way. Then the second, the energy efficient operation, inclusive renewables and the technologies around that. And the third pillar is users demand, where we don't understand exactly what should it be and how the weightings should be put there. And the 3 pillars should become different weightings. And for the first pillar, for example, we developed here in Austria a kind of table, for example, where we said, okay, what is important for the stakeholders here? We knew it from questionnaires, so we want to know loads for specific domains. We want to know how are the storages, the power storage and also the heat storages. And we want to know more about the thermal activated building components or the low temperature heating and cooling systems. And then when we have all these things, we can say more about load shifting, and this is very important. So this was one step we took. Another, for example, was that we also said for this user demands pillar, we could, for example, not only say, okay, of course, it's smart and nice to have high comfort in the buildings, but could it also be in relation to energy flexibility that we say, okay, buildings in future who allow bigger comfort ranges to use more renewable energy, heat or power, should be rated higher or weighted higher in the smart readiness, and made suggestions like this here, that maybe the weighting should be higher when the ranges for winter and summer comforts are wider. And all these things aimed for, as I already said, different weightings, which we tested for SRI. Then there was also a discussion in Austria about minimum requirements, which we take from the EPC as a basis or basic for a smart building. So should there also be CO2 or primary energy values which you should not exceed to be smart, and so on and so on. So a lot of questions, and these questions we wanted to answer in analyzing more in detail the European methodology. So we took buildings, tested them. You can see here in this table different buildings we tested. Then we had these assessment results we all know now also from other countries with values between 30 and 50% for this SRI methodology, but we also saw that also other indicators we used in Austria had very low values. And that also we had a look at the ease of data acquisition, how much time you use for data acquisition in these different indicators. And then we looked more, and because of this, we looked more in detail into the services and functionality levels. And there arose some questions like this here. The attribution of storages when using different energy carriers, and so on and so on. And then we said, okay, Should there be some adaptations? For example, the high level of detail in the functionality levels require more precise data. Should we, for example, make here default values more possibly in future, or are there other options when we have poor data? Only as an example, and there are more, of course, suggestions for adaptations. These three here are only 3 from, I guess, 20 we came up with. And then we, of course, had some conclusions. So the smart adaptation of the buildings should be dedicated to the decarbonized energy system. Then we want to have more quantified flexibility in it. And the SRI should go hand in hand with the energy performance certificate, and maybe in future also more into districts. And then we started now a new project nationally, which is called SRI Demo, where we want to demonstrate and also learn more about this. So that's more or less from my side, a quick and maybe a little bit confusing, but hopefully interesting overview of what's going on in Austria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Armin. Yes, it's very interesting to hear about your point of view, and of course we all know that the SRI methodology needs also some adaptations and customizations, let's say. Let's move now to Spain. We are slightly late, but I think we can catch up a bit later. So Maria, you have 10 minutes to introduce the test phase in Spain.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. So thank you for giving me the floor, and thank you to Vidal Portal for organizing the webinar. I'm going to provide an overview from the Spanish perspective about the implementation of the SRI. We are in a very early phase compared to Austria, but anyway, I hope that the current status in Spain is interesting for you as well. Okay. Well, I work at CENER in the Energy Transition in Cities department. Very quickly, what is CENER? Is the National Renewable Energy Center of Spain. We develop applied research in renewable energies in 5 areas: wind, solar, thermal, and photovoltaic solar energy, biomass, and energy transition in cities, and grid integration of energy. Our expertise is focused in 3 main areas: the development of research and development and investment projects for industrial application, testing services and certification for components, and technical assistance and feasibility studies for renewable energy technologies. Our board of trustees includes the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, the Ministry for the Ecological Transition, and the government of Navarre. Is the north region in Spain where our headquarters are located. Well, in the context of the LIFE program, the SRI market project was approved under the 2021 Smart Ready call. This project, which mainly focus on the implementation of the SRI instrument into national regulations, started in November. Because this started in November and has indeed a very good opportunity to pull synergies with public authorities in this field. So I don't know why. I have not patience and I push the button so quickly. I think now is this, okay. This is the geographical coverage of the project that covers 7 countries, but including Spain, where 2 organizations are involved: CENER, the National Renewable Energy Center, and Efinovatic, that is an SME focused on the development of tools for EPB assessment, including the official EPC procedure in Spain. Well, I think now it's working. Well, the scope of the project includes the work package 3 led by CENER, which focuses on the creation and support of demand for the SRI at national level, including the development of an assessment platform at its database, the provision of vocational training on the SRI assessment through an e-learning platform, and the setup of pilot campaigns at national level to collect empirical data on SRI levels and derive guidelines and best practices. So then, in particular, this work package has been relevant as a first approach to offer the project resources to our Spanish ministry. So the public authority in charge of the evaluation of the SRI instrument in Spain and take the decision to implement it into the Spanish regulation is the Ministry for the Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge, called MITECO, here with the technical assistance from IDAE, that is the Institute for the Diversification and Saving of Energy, which is the Spanish energy agency under the umbrella of this ministry as well. So then we started conversations with them after the SRI2 market was approved in order to motivate the launch of the non-committal test phase in Spain. Its feedback was very positive from the very beginning, seeing the project as a good opportunity to do so. So its main motivation to go ahead with this process has been the new part of the Article 13, where the figure of the instrument is reinforced through a mandatory scenario for large non-residential buildings, as Simon said, with a generation power over a specific value, over 290 kilowatts. So this was the main motivation indeed. So then we started with the preparation of the communication letter, including a tentative timeline and a scope for the SRI test phase in Spain under the umbrella of the SRI2 market project and with the technical support from CENER. The official communication to the DGNR from the Spanish ministry was sent past Friday, 26th of May of 2023. So, well, this is the tentative scope for the Spanish test phase. This covers these aspects. First, training needs for EPC assessors to become SRI experts based on the SRI2 market e-learning platform and its related training program. Evaluate available tools such as the SRI2 market assessment tool and its e-learning platform in Spanish language. We will also evaluate the quality of required input data and their proper justification and the adequacy of the methodology to the Spanish context, with assessment of at least 50 case studies conducted by CENER and third parties. And finally, we will report to the European Commission. Sorry. Well, this is the tentative timeline for the testing phase. This is linked to the main SRI2 market project milestones. The current timeline could be adapted if necessary according to the requirements established by the approval and publication of the new EPBD in 2023. But more or less, this is the timeline, the current timeline. So in May 2023, we have the official communication. Then between May and October 2023, we will develop a detailed plan for the activities, including, for instance, how would be the procedure for selection of third parties, which will take part of the test phase under invitation, mainly through professional associations and also SRI cluster Spanish partners, such as Veolia and SGS. Also, we will develop the selection of a representative sample of cases covering different typologies, size, complexities, and geographical coverage. And also, we will define the methodology for testing, no? And the KPIs for the evaluation, for instance, of the training needs, the tools, the methodology, the input quality, and so on. Then between October 2023 and April 2024, we start the test phase, mainly case studies conducted by CENER. And after that, between April 2024 and April 2025, an open testing phase will be conducted, including the training of assessors and the conduct of case studies by third parties. This open test phase will take place at two different levels of scope, by invitation and also by a wider audience. And finally, between April and July 2025, we will prepare the reporting to the European Commission. So you can see that all these milestones are very close linked with the milestones of the SRI-to-Market project, when the assessment tool is available, when the learning platform is available, and so on. Well, now I have included here some additional slides to illustrate, no, which are the tools to support this test phase in Spain. First is the SRI-to-Market platform that cover the learning platform and assessment tool as well. The learning platform and our e-learning program covers different levels of knowledge about the SRI, from visitor until expert. This would be very useful also to interact with this test phase. And also the assessment tool will be prepared to conduct the case studies, as well to storage input data and result data in our database, to compare quality, justification from technicians, and also results. Finally, a couple of slides about the current status of our assessment tool is we have already available a beta version. So this is the welcome page. This is the input forms screen more or less. This is a screen of results with global results, aggregated result per functionalities, also detailed scores, as Sophie showed at the beginning of the session. And finally, also comment that the assessment tool has been developed with a web responsive design, so technicians will be able also to use it during the on-site visit to the building. So all aspects related also to user friendliness and so on related to the web tool will be also analyzed during the test phase in Spain. Finally, thank you so much for your attention. If you need some, can address to me some any question to my email. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this presentation. Also touching already the SRI-to-Market project that will also be presented in this part 2 very quickly. So now let's move to this part 2. Let me remind you that if you have questions for the previous speakers, you can use the question box in the GoToWebinar panel. And now we are going to have a presentation of each of the 4 live projects: Easy SRI, SRI-to-Market, Smart Square, and SRI-ENACT. But before that, I would like just to show one thing. It's the combined geographical coverage of the 4 projects. You can see here on this illustration that more than the half of the EU member states are addressed by at least one of these projects, and also by several projects in some cases. In those cases, by the way, coordination between projects is ensured. There are some working groups in which all projects are involved to make sure, well, to join forces in each country. And well, that's very good news for the member states, for at least half of them, since the LIFE projects can support the design and execution of a test phase of the SRI in order to prepare the regulatory evolution that were presented by Sylvain Robert previously. So I suggest to move to the first speaker for Easy SRI, Paraskevas Koukaras from CERT. The floor is yours to present the project. You have only 5 minutes. We are already a bit late, so let's stick to this duration. So 5 minutes per project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the invitation to this build-up webinar and of course the opportunity to present the SRI project. So Easy SRI is all about improving and demonstrating the potential of SRI. This is the project identity card. As you can see, we have partners from Greece, Cyprus, Italy, Spain, Austria, Ireland, and Netherlands. So what is the vision and the objectives of Easy SRI? The main aim is to create a web platform that will act as a basis for implementing the SRI. And of course, we will test it at the European member states level. We want to introduce some parameters regarding the energy efficiency and also some financial aspects. We want to do it in a way that this information will be understandable and for the user, for the occupant of the buildings, and of course to be able to quantify this. Of course, we have some, we foresee some machine learning services that will help us to recommend some upgrades for the buildings and promote some novel business strategies that will help us. We believe it will help us for the adaptation and improve the stakeholder engagement for the SRI. Last but not least, Easy SRI contributes to some possible updates for the current standards, along with integration of other standards, in order to elevate, to increase the usability of SRI in the European Union policy. So Easy SRI stands as a single platform that combines some specific aspects: a calculation engine for the SRI, a wizard tool with the aim to simplify a potentially complicated task and instruct a user about how to fill in all necessary fields to calculate the SRI. And as I said earlier, a machine learning based core engine that identifies the best SRI renovation solutions and will produce some recommendations, upgrade recommendations for the end users. Also, it will enable some services to promote and exploit the rollout of ICT and smart technologies. As I said, it will disseminate and promote the SRI adoption to become a standard index for evaluating efficient building operation, along with EPCs, hopefully. And it will help us create new green and sustainable businesses, while also reducing the energy consumption in buildings, either that happens as an indirect or inducted effect. Also, we have 6 pilot sites that will test the SRI in Greece, Cyprus, Netherlands, Austria, Italy, and Spain. Now, what is the expected impact of Easy SRI? We have 2 groups of stakeholders. The first one is about the ones that wish to renovate their buildings and increase the SRI score. And the second one is for the stakeholders that can offer products and services for the SRI. So the prototype that we will produce will be exploited, and we will extend it with a market uptake. And we hope to create an act of SRI raising products. And we believe that this will help speed up the SRI advancements as seen by the European Union. And we expect the SRI results to show some significant impact regarding the implementation and the market uptake. I believe this is my last slide. So what are some improvements for European Union and national policies and initiatives? So with SRI, we will suggest some ways to integrate the outcomes of this project to existing policies. This means that we will facilitate the SRI implementation to national legislations, while also analyzing some compatibility issues. Of course, SRI will document the status of other European initiatives like EPCs, renovation passports, and so on. And we will try to create this link with possible SRI-related aspects. And of course, we have the partners from different countries that reach out to public authorities in order to check out what are the priorities, national priorities, for moving on to the adaptation of SRI. So this was a very brief presentation of the Easy SRI project, and I hope I managed to showcase the important aspects of it. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Paraskevas, and please, of course, stay until the end, since there will certainly be some questions for you about the project. So I'm now taking the floor to introduce the SRI to Market project. Yeah, so this project has a very strong policy orientation, let's say, and the aim of the project is to support member states to apply the SRI and to help them overcome regulatory and market barriers, and to use also lessons from early adopter countries that are well advanced in rolling out the SRI, and to support and inspire action among other member states. This is the consortium that was already introduced by Maria, so I'm going very fast here. And instead, I would like to spend some time here on this slide, the pilots. We have in total 6 countries that are addressed by the project. The first 2 are Austria and France, which are 2 countries in which test phases have already been undertaken. And for these countries, it was already introduced by Armin previously. The project will support their activities and also learn from the past activities or ongoing activities, let's say. Then we have 2 countries for which we are very proud that the SRI to Market project has triggered the launch of a test phase. So Croatia and Spain, as already presented by Maria. So here the project support the design and the implementation of the test phase, and of course also use the lessons learned from the first group. And finally, we have Portugal and Cyprus. We do hope that a test phase will also be triggered, perhaps later in the project. And here, the idea of the project is to engage national policy and market stakeholders and create interest in the SRI and in the opportunities that emerge from it, and possibly ultimately also launch an official test phase and prepare the implementation of the instrument in their national regulation. In our methodology, we have let's say, very roughly speaking, three aspects. So the integration of the SRI with national regulation. So here we are studying national regulation and checking to which extent the SRI can fit, and what should be done in order to introduce the SRI in national regulation. We have this other aspect, creation of demand for the SRI at national level, and it is in this field of activities, let's say, that we are going to provide this e-learning service and this assessment platform that Maria already presented. And we have the stakeholder engagement process that we are currently implementing, and this is what I would like to detail now. So in this stakeholder engagement process and activities, so we have an advisory board, like many projects have, but we want to make it very concrete with members from each of the 6 pilot countries that should participate in this advisory board, but also in national working groups. So we would like to have policy officers, let's say, at the national level, or possibly also regional, local level, who shall validate the SRI adoption roadmaps. So these working groups will be very important bodies and will supervise also the work of experts panels. There are 3 panels for each country, one on the flexibility to the power system, on energy efficient smart buildings and SRI methodology, and market adoption and smart technology packages. So you can see here on the right of the slide the different types of operators that we want to gather in these experts panels. So grid operators, but also generators, consumers, well, representatives of consumers, EPB experts. We want to have smart product suppliers, flexibility operators, etc. So we are working on this at the moment within the 6 countries, and the purpose is really to have a tailored and adapted SRI methodology in terms of all those parameters, the weighting factors, the different services to be assessed. We want to work on this detailed aspect in order to facilitate the adoption of the SRI at national level, thanks to these stakeholder engagement activities. Next, we have the SRI to market platform, but it was already introduced by Maria. I have also the same screenshots here. Just want to mention that this platform will also be tailored and takes into account the adaptations of the methodologies that are foreseen in each of the 6 pilot countries. In terms of outputs and KPIs, so we aim to have 3,000 users of the tool. We aim to conduct in total across the 6 countries 1,200 assessments. We want also to have some use cases, and an important aspect also for work will be to work on business models and financing options in order also to facilitate the uptake of smart technologies in the 6 countries. So that's all for me. Now I'm happy to give the floor to the next speaker, so Paris Fokaides, that will introduce a Smart Square project. Paris, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you everyone. We are here to introduce the main aspects of Smart Square project. Smart Square stands for Smart Tools for Smart Buildings, enhancing the intelligence of buildings in Europe. So this is one of the 4 sister projects of the SRI cluster. The main concept of the project was delivered based on the current needs that the SRI scheme has, or at least those needs that we have identified about 2 years ago when the first contract was drafted. So the main idea of this initiative is to assist the uptake of the SRI in the market as well as to explore some other aspects which are related to the links between the SRI and the EPC, as well as to identify needs for standardization. In our case, we focus on the walkthrough SRI audits and the needs of developing some good practices and some procedures for achieving this. And at the same time, we are also handling some other topics which are more or less aligned to method C of SRI, that is issues with regard to the calculation of the SRI based on real measurements or on interoperability issues which are related to information that we can get for this type of calculation. Now we have here the SRI proposition. The SRI aims to develop and deliver some smart tools which are going to be used for the enhancement and the uptake of the SRI across Europe. The main idea behind the project is the development of a platform, a cloud-based platform, which will be used for the easy and comprehensive assessment of buildings with the SRI method. And at the same time, we wish to develop some further procedures which are related to standardization and recommendations for upgrading the SRI of a building. We aim to connect, to link the cost optimal with the SRI upgrade. And in terms of this project, we wish to have some activities which will work towards this direction. We see here the different clusters of activities of the project. We have a work package which focuses on bridging the gap between the SRI and the EU citizens. The highlights of this work package include the development and the operation of an SRI observatory, which will be online in the following weeks, managed by RIBA. Under this observatory, we will also have an annual publication of the SRI annual outlook for the years 23, 24, 25, where we will compile all the developments in the field. And we also aim to deliver an SRI for Dummies, a web page which will include an FAQ for SRI, which will be helpful for the European citizens to understand the essence of the SRI. We also aim to develop and deliver some tools and services which will be useful for making some steps towards the operational SRI. Under these activities, we foresee some work for linking the SRI with the EPC. What are the joint layers of information? What information needs to be further delivered and given for the case of the SRI? And we also discuss on integrating AI practices as well as DDL datasets with the SRI and defining the needs in this field. We also aim to work a lot on standardization field. That is a field in which we deliver a lot of work, and our purpose is to organize a workshop out of this project in which we will demonstrate best practices in walkthrough audits for the SRI assessment, and towards defining recommendations for improving the SRI. We'll also develop some know-how on cost optimal upgrade of the smartness of buildings. At this point, we handle the energy efficiency aspect. We have the challenge to integrate the comfort and smart grids aspect as well in our calculations. This is a challenge that we aim to face. And of course, we demonstrate in this slide some of our first outcomes of the economic exercise or the financials exercise that we are performing for the smartness upgrade, which demonstrates what energy savings we can achieve by different smartness upgrades of different functionalities of the SRI. This is an exercise which is based on existing standards on the factor-based method, and we aim to further develop this exercise towards reaching more solid conclusions. We have a very ambitious target for the impact of the project. Based on the tools and the services that we will develop, we aim to have more than 10,000 assessments by the end of the project. Most of them will be delivered by the SRI days. These will be national days, which will be organized from month 18 on in different countries, participating countries, with the aim of the issuance, or not the issuance, the assessment of certain number of buildings per event. We will also operate a call center in which SRIs will be assessed and delivered. And we will also have a virtual training center from which we expect to have a number of auditors trained who will also deliver some SRI certificates. Our project considers all methods of the SRI, the simplified, the expert method, as well as the induced method. And we have specific activities both in the field of development and in the field of demonstration and capacity building activities to cover all the needs and all the methods of the SRI. We see in this slide the network, which consists of partners from Cyprus, where we also have our coordination site, and UFIA Tech, a spin-off of Frederick University in the field of smart buildings. We also have partners from Greece, from Bulgaria, Romania, Germany, Ireland, and Brussels and Italy. And this is my last slide, the long vision of the Smart Square. We wish to develop and deliver some tools and some practices which will support and contribute to the uptake of the SRI for the following years. So we have 8 tangible results which we aim to establish them, as for example the observatory, the SRI outlooks, the SRI days, the tools that are going to be developed, the call centers, the FAQs, and other initiatives like the standards or the virtual training center for the SRI, which will contribute to the long-lasting establishment of the scheme. I would like to thank you, and I hope I kept my time.
Thank you so much, Paris. And now let's give the floor to the last speaker, Stamatia Rizou from Singular Logic. She's going to present SRI-ENACT. Let's try not to exceed 5 minutes because we are already a bit late and we want to still have time to address the questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm going to present the SRI-ENACT project. The title of the project is Co-creating Tools and Services for the Smart Readiness Indicator Uptake. Okay, in terms of the project identity, the project started in 1st of December last year, and it will last 30 months. We have 9 partners and 1 affiliated entity. In terms of geographical coverage, we have 8 pilot countries from partners from Czech Republic, Austria, Spain, Latvia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Romania, and Greece. In all these countries, we're going to run pilots for SRI assessments. And in Belgium, we have the partner EHP responsible for the dissemination and communication of the project. So in terms of the project objectives, a very important element of the project is the stakeholder engagement. And this is integral to our approach and methodology. We want to establish a co-creation process from the beginning of the project in order to co-create some national tailored methodologies for the uptake of the SRI. It will span across the project with the pilot activities and also activities towards policy-making aspects at the end of the project. On the technical part, we want to develop a web-based toolkit. This is similar, I guess, to all the other projects. And apart from the assessment tool, we are going also to provide a decision support tool that will support decisions relating to smartness upgrades and their relevance to the SRI score. Within our project, we plan a large-scale pilot assessment that will span over the 8 EU countries that I just mentioned. And to deliver this pilot, we are going to train 120 assessors, and we are going to deliver assessments for more than 1,000 buildings, 1,200 buildings across these 8 EU countries. Finally, in terms of the objectives, we are also investigating and exploring potential concepts for the financing of the building smartness upgrades in relevance to the SRI. So the expected outcomes of the project is basically at the methodological level. We want to provide some national tailored methodology that will address the challenges in specific national context. We are going also to develop a training scheme to train professional SRI auditors and equip them with the necessary skills to run the pilot assessments. And finally, we are going to design also some decision support tool to support potential smart upgrades and explore financing schemes. The project scope we have seen in earlier presentations. Our scope for the assessment is mainly on the expert assessment for the method B. And as I said before, for the decision support tool, we are going to collect data from the SRI assessments and other data from the pilots in order to be able to simulate some what-if scenarios and provide some guidance on potential smart energy upgrades and retrofit technologies. Finally, we are going also to provide a capacity building program together with the SRI-ENACT guidebook on how to use the services developed within the project. Now I would like to say a few words about the stakeholder engagement we are now in the first 6 months of the project, and as a first step towards stakeholder engagement, we ran 8 workshops, national workshops with 8 pilot countries. The calendar email has been very busy. We have run 6 workshops already, and there are another 2 planned in June. The ones that have already been done is in Greece, in Latvia, in Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Croatia. And we are going in June to have a workshop in Austria and in Spain. The goal of these workshops is to bring together some key experts in each local community, including policymakers from the respective organizations, ministries and organizations responsible for the SRI uptake, and also to form the so-called stakeholder liaison group, so a group of stakeholders that will sustain all over the project and will provide feedback on our activities and so on. I guess I will need to speed up a bit. I have just a few slides about the workshop, but maybe I can skip that. But I can say that we had some very interesting discussions, and we had the chance to bring together the stakeholders and also representatives also from sister projects, and discuss about also our pilot activities and how we can contribute in the pilot phases. And also how we can trigger also from our side to in the countries that there is already not started the pilot phase, to be able to start officially the pilot phase. So as a final remark, as I said, stakeholder engagement is integral to our project. We are going to sustain, let's say, this so-called stakeholder liaison groups, and we are going to have the pilot activity starting from September with a first testing phase that later on will scale up and will enter a replication phase to reach the ambitious goal of 1,200 assessment across EU. And of course, along the way, we will want to remain connected also with the sister SRI projects and all the relevant organizations in order to contribute as much as possible to these efforts for the SRI uptake. So this is all from my side. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Stamatia, and it's very good to see how you have already cooperated with the sister projects in these national workshops in several countries. So the live projects are cooperating instead of competing. This is very good news. Sorry for being a bit late, but still we are going to address questions from the audience. And for this, I give the floor back to Build Up colleagues.
Okay, perfect. So we have unfortunately run a little bit out of time. Although the topic is very interesting and creates very relevant, it's really relevant nowadays, I'm gonna try to condense some of the questions from the audience and concerns, because some of them are launching some ideas. So from Italy, one of our attendees says, good morning, if every member state can choose different weightings for SRI calculation, how can we compare SRI indicator for buildings in several EU states? We will make the same mistake of EPC. That came through when Armin was talking, but I think it's quite general, no? It's transversal for all of you. So could be
Yes,
Armin, but or yourself.
Yeah. I can provide a first answer, and of course I invite the other speakers to supplement what I'm saying. So indeed, as we all know, the SRI methodology is defined at EU level, and it is provided in the EPBD, but the member states are in charge of defining the, let's say, technical parameters of the methodology. And indeed, there can be some divergence. But there is also the SRI platform at EU level that is bringing together all the stakeholders, and in particular the member states, but also other active stakeholders around the SRI in order to discuss these potential evolutions. So the idea would be to have the, let's say, technical parameters defined at EU level that could evolve, but also there will be some local adaptations that are certainly unavoidable. Well, that's my answer to this question. Of course, if other speakers want to comment, yes, Sylvain.
Yes, please. Just to say that, first of all, saying that the way EPCs were designed and implemented is a mistake is a bit strong. I would not fully agree with this assessment. I mean, Europe, you know, is made of diverse countries. And when it comes to buildings, I guess that the national administrations have to deal with the specificities of the building stocks of the people who live in those buildings, and of all the professional value chain that is involved in implementing those instruments. So I would like to underline that the way it was designed, it was based on a proposal by the Commission, but then discussed by the institutions, and then discussed at the technical level with representatives from member state. And this design is the result of the collective thinking and of a collective agreement. And I think we should respect that the national level has those specificities to address and needs this flexibility in order to implement the instrument in the best way. We had the excellent presentation by Armin that, for instance, shows that they are consulting the concerned people and stakeholders in Austria, and that basically there could be different views on what's more important in the SRI for the national objectives, for the buildings, the way they are in the countries. And I guess this process has to apply in all countries, and this is the way it goes. And then just to underline, but Sophie already hinted at it, that our role at the EU level is to put in place a framework that accompanies, a supporting framework that accompanies in the best way this process in the member state, and when it's possible to try to lead to a kind of harmonization where it's possible. So we're doing both, and I think it's doing great.
Yeah, I mean, from Build Up, we are sure of that, but we always want to translate you the concerns of our audience. From same person, from Italy again, He said why SRI is intended as the indicator of smart readiness and not of building smartness. Perhaps Armin, because it was during his presentation,
Well,
or
I'm
Silvan.
not sure that I'm sorry, because the name was defined at, in the Commission's proposal, and actually then evolved in the negotiations with the Parliament and the Council. So honestly, I guess it's a bit of a synonym. And then, voilà, smart readiness is defined in the regulation. This is what matters. Regardless of the name, what matters is that we know what it entails. And I guess this is where the regulation provides us information. But then, well, I would consider it's a bit of a synonym, so should not matter too much. And then just to underline that in any case, the translation in the various EU languages leads to very different things. And so there is not a unique understanding of the word, of the terminology. What matters is the contents, the methodology, the framework, and so on. And this we have.
Okay. Wait, something is in the back. Armin, do you want to add something to that question?
No, only I fully agree what Sylvain said.
Yeah.
I want to underline that, yeah, really.
Absolutely.
That's the point. So we have different translations, of course, in our tongue, mother tongue, let's say, and but it doesn't matter because you should know what's behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I think, is perfect. Maria touched a very interesting theme, that is training. We are in the year of skills. How important is training for the quicker penetration of SRI? We know it is, but more important, in which stage we are in the European countries, or in Spain in this case, from Maria, right now in terms of trained professionals that can implement SRI? I don't know if Maria wants to. Hi, Maria.
Hi, hello. Well, our intention is to improve the training or the knowledge capacities of current EPC assessors. So it depends on the background, no? Because in Spain, we have several degrees has the competence to develop EPCs, such architects, engineers, and so on. So sometimes the background or their knowledge is more focused on the building envelope, thermal transmittance, thermal breaches, and so on. That is very important for the EPC, but maybe their knowledge is not deeply in HVAC systems, building automation and control systems, and so on. So our intention with this training program is to complement their current knowledge with this part. I assume that different, we contact with professional associations of engineers, for instance, pues they will have a better knowledge, no, about installations, HVAC systems, and their control. So it depends on the background. Of course, we have professionals with already have the knowledge to conduct the SRI assessment. Our intention is to improve current knowledge of this type of professional that is not so focused, no, on this part of the building installations. And of course, we continue giving some sessions here in Spain. We have on 14 of June, we have a session with ATECIR, that is the Association of HVAC engineers here in Spain. So many engineers will attend to know about the procedure, the assessment tool, and so on. And also, when all the e-learning platform is ready next year, because we will invite all professionals and professional associations to come to improve their knowledge about this.
Awesome, Maria. Thank you so much. This was a question for Simone, but I think it's quite open for all of you. All of you have something to say. That is, can you give us more details on why the SRI should become mandatory? And which scenario can you predict in case the SRI will stay as a voluntary measure? And if do you see a parallelism with other measures already adopted by the EU in the past?
Thank you for the question. Actually, this gives me the opportunity to touch on the previous questions. So first of all, I have to say I agree with the concern that was raised by the audience, by the person from Italy. So I completely understand, and I agree with Sylvain and Armin and Sophie regarding the fact that there is a principle of subsidiarity and each country is different. So I mean, in order for the tool to be effective and to be used, I think it needs to address the specificity of each country. So that's essential. At the same time, I think the example of EPC, it's a good example. So now the EPCs are being reviewed. I think we need to be careful just now that we are developing that the SRI is being developed, that there is a degree in which like the specificity is ensured, the differences are allowed, but at the same time, I guess everyone agrees that we don't want to end up with scores that are completely different, like completely different from one country to another. So I think on behalf of the industry, I just want to express the concern again related to the fact that SRI scores and methodologies can be completely different from one country to another. But I think so far everyone, all the consultants in the European Commission and the member states are doing, from what we can see, a very good job. We are in contact with Armin, and I agree that the presentation from Austria was really good. We are happy to see that the testing is proceeding and more countries are involved. But why we ask for SRI to become mandatory? Basically, two reasons. So the first one is we still see, even before and after the test, some skepticism related to the SRI from many different perspectives, and we are afraid that these SRI will be. I mean, the Commission already spent a lot of years developing it, and we want to avoid the situation in which like it will be many other years being discussed. And I'm sure, and a lot of elements can be improved, but at some point, I think the best way is to start applying it and ensuring that there is a working group that will keep it updated. I think it needs to start being deployed, starts to be perceived as a tool by the people, by the industry, by the professionals, and step by step, this will also give more values to the buildings and will achieve the scope. The second one is, as I was saying in the presentation, in the EPBD there are other measures, such as the one on building automation and controls, and I think when implementing these measures, you can also sometimes find synergies. So basically, a lot of professionals will need to do interventions on some buildings, upgrading the building automation and control systems, checking the compliance with the requirements. And I think, for example, compliance check, once you check the compliance of the building automation with the legislation, you could also do an assessment related to the SRI. In this case, you will save money, you will save time, and you will achieve actually an SRI certificate score quite sooner. So it's very important to find synergies, and we believe that mandatory SRI will speed up the process.
Thank you so much. Sophie, if you are okay, we will finish here. I think it's been extremely interesting. I think we also in the questions, thank you to the speakers for addressing also the tricky questions from our audience, but this is an indication that they are following it, they are concerned, and they want to, I think, implement the best for Europe. Thank you to all the speakers and also for the audience for attending and being and sending us so many questions and really expressing your interest. A reminder from Build Up that you will be able to find the recording of today's session on our portal and our YouTube channel. In the coming days, together with the presentation slides, we wish you all a very pleasant end to your week. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much for the organization and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.